Everybody. It has been a little while since I've done a video and wanted to do a video real briefly today. Life and work and all the rest of it are all the excuses I could use for not doing a video. Really, most of it just comes down to, I think, maintaining the right energy and momentum around different tasks. And I'm thankful that I've had a couple collaborators, shout out to you all, you know who you are, for being willing and able to kind of come alongside and help kind of brainstorm ideas and thoughts over the last couple months. And so I just wanted to take today and kind of update you with where things are and how things are going. What I wanted to do is I'm actually going to show you a little bit of some of the new design. Some of this has been pretty recent in terms of kind of visual updates, stuff like that. This particular design is kind of a newer design style, fairly similar kind of theory as I've talked about in the past, where we're trying to kind of create a system, a modular kind of decentralized system of understanding this clinical data and clinical workflow. But this is a little bit of different UI style, trying to go for more of a minimalist look for sure, but more about kind of keeping the focus where the focus should be, in terms of the right, the kind of the current card, the current appointment, which appointment is now, what the particular next actions could be in terms of, going to the next appointment, creating a message, an order, opening something, things like that. So not a lot has changed under the hood. I think just kind of some visual updates. You can see that there have been some design updates here with some of the styling in the active conditions, and I got some feedback just around how it's important to be able to show a little bit more detail there. So for instance, if we have somebody who has an active condition, rheumatoid arthritis, well, it's probably going to have a body site in particular, maybe 2 or 3, maybe more body sites in there, and that's not necessarily something that you get with every single thing that every single condition that there might be in that list. So that's one update. Let's see. There's not been a whole lot else here. Not a whole lot else on the front of the prototype. But what I wanted to talk about was an idea that I have been kind of building towards with the prototype and some of this testing over the last, 6 months now. And an idea that I have around how to test whether or not this thing could have some legs in the market. And that's one of the things that I get questions on pretty frequently when I tell people about this is, the idea is great. The product strategy is really nice and it's interesting. And it's a great idea theoretically. But what exactly is the marketability and where can it fit into the market? And I've heard everything from, you have to be super laser focused on product in order to make it work. You have to be super focused on distribution and delivery. You have to be you have to be very specialized, that in a way that no one else is specialized. And there's a lot of this kind of conflicting information, and I've actually seen this floating around Twitter a little bit recently too, just how much conflicting information there can be that is given to founders. I don't know that I necessarily consider myself a founder really, but people who are trying to build something new and fresh for the market. And the idea that and so you get all this, you're kind of inundated with all of this information, all this stuff, and I continue to come back to this idea from this company called NFX. They're an investment firm, but they also they have a fantastic library of resources. If you're somebody who reads these things, I would highly recommend just spending 2 or 3 hours going through their blog. But they have this kind of idea around the new mindset for product market fit. And I love this graphic. I actually save this graphic and send it to people every now and then. And I was actually talking with someone about this last week, and we were talking about this idea of the EHR is such a complicated, complex product that it's not feasible unless you're a millionaire, which I am not. It's not really feasible to build it from the ground up with no investment and no team. And so the challenge is, how do you get investment? How do you rally a team around it? And how do you do that in a way that is simple enough that it is scalable and actionable. Um, and so the traditional value of product market fit is represented, of course, in this old mindset kind of head where it says, you build your thing, you launch it, you measure, you iterate, and you repeat. And that's still the thing that a lot of people do. And I think that very much applies to kind of a consumer-based product, particularly with the explosion of no-code tools and tools like Webflow or Bubble or whatever it is. Like, those tools make this old mindset, particularly for fairly technically and I think logistically simpler tools, that still applies. Like, that mindset still applies, and those things can be feasible. But when you're talking about an EHR, or really anything that could be kind of considered like an enterprise, like hard tech space, it's not super feasible. A really kind of extreme version of this example comes to mind, where you look at Boom, the supersonic plane company. They started with some very small prototypes, enough to gauge the interest of airlines, and they did that, and then they went after funding, because there's no way that anyone, unless you are, Jeff Bezos or somebody like that, there's no way that you have the amount of money that is needed to research, build, and develop a supersonic airplane. And so the idea with the new mindset is just that. You build minimum viable marketing. So you market your product as if it's this kind of thing that they can use. You launch it, you test, you iterate, and you figure out what is the message and what is the feature set and product that someone wants to buy, and then you go out and build that. And so my goal with the prototype, but even just at a higher level, has been to figure out how do we build enough to understand the problem, understand the product space, and understand how our product can be different, and market that as if it were a real product. And this idea is called product promise market fit instead of product market fit. Let's see, it's in this article somewhere. So the product promise market fit is the really important thing to be thinking about here. And so when I think about this prototype, when I think about kind of the next ideal 6 months of time that this prototype is, it's not just building this prototype, it's not just continuing to do the product design and work to figure out what the product should be, but it's also to build a marketing site. And that sounds really basic, but I think that part of my skill set as a designer is to think about the market and think about your communication of and your message that surrounds a specific product, but also to then go out and build that using Webflow or something like that, which is feasible. It is feasible to launch a really compelling, really beautiful, well put together marketing site in a month or two. That is a pretty achievable goal. As a founder, kind of working and thinking about a really complex, hard problem and market it as if it were a real product. Craft the messaging, craft the story, craft every kind of as much as feasibly possible on the marketing site. And I'm talking about going all the way through to a pricing page where a user or potential customer can see that pricing table and go, okay, this is what I want. They hit the buy now or get a demo or whatever the call to action is. And then it goes, hey, this isn't a real product yet, but here's what we need from you if you want this to be a real product. And this is kind of represented in this board where I'm working on a sitemap where I'm kind of thinking about, we go from the homepage to the product preview, the use case, where's my use case, the pricing, and then there is this sign up, email, submit, etc. And I think this can do two things. Not only can it demonstrate how I intend to talk about the product, which is obviously really important, it forces me to think about what are the most high touch and high value things that someone is going to want to know about, particularly a buyer mindset when they come to a website like this, and what is that use case. And it also can help me say, what are the potential use cases for this? It doesn't have to be necessarily limited. Most of my thought process is around private practice, but what if it's also concierge practice? What if it's multi-specialty groups? What if it's small health systems? Is it realistic? Maybe not, but by launching it and then iterating on the messaging and iterating on what that offering actually is, we can begin to find a place for this type of product to fit in the market. or we realize no, it doesn't fit in the market, and that's okay too. And so this is kind of the focus. It's still going to be this. It's still going to be working through like the design of this product. I've had a lot of really great conversations with some physicians about how they're conducting patient encounters, and there's a lot of cool ideas floating around in my brain about how to use AI to power notes and natural language processing to extract data. That's stuff I've talked about in the past. And so that stuff is still coming. I'm still working on that stuff. There's no doubt about it. But I'm also going to be thinking about this marketing thing. I'm going to be thinking about how to make this marketing site something that is really compelling. Something that is very like next generation. Like it feels like it's next generation. It's not just that it says it is, but it feels like it is. Because every time I talk to someone about this product, and there's a lot of potential with this, is this exactly what it's going to look like? Probably not, maybe not. I think there's a lot in here that will remain, and certainly I think the core concepts will remain, but I don't know that this will exactly 100% be what the final product is. But this is enough, and I think this is enough. And from what I've seen, the process that I've been using is enough to determine whether or not something has some level of viability. And I think that in of itself is a really important indicator on whether or not it's good enough to then test. And the test is not necessarily to have people sign up, although that is a wonderful goal, and I want to get to a point where you can sign up and use the prototype. But the goal is not necessarily that, but that is not necessarily the goal. The goal is to test, is this feasible? And if it is, how feasible is it? And if it is ideally very feasible, then how do I go and take that next step to get funding, build a team, rally some people around me? I've got great connections through On Deck that I think would really help with that. So that is kind of it for this week. That's where my head's been at for the last probably 2 months now. It's just kind of putting all of these little pieces together. I've had some other really interesting learnings that I want to kind of bring about in the next, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But I think for now, I'm going to leave it there. Be keeping an eye out. I'm going to be getting back on this bandwagon a little bit more. I'm going to be building some momentum. Today is a quick video, very short, just kind of pitching some ideas and kind of showing a little bit of that off. Expect to see some more updates, I hope, next week and into the future. But yes, that's kind of where it's at. I think there's a lot here, especially around this product promise market fit, of saying we're not trying to necessarily figure out what the whole product is, just enough of what the product could be to test whether or not it's a viable product in the market. So that's it. I appreciate you watching. If you're interested, subscribe. The meme is to say smash that like button, and I guess I'll say that. But if you haven't already, sign up on Substack. You follow me on Twitter, where I post and talk about all this kind of stuff fairly regularly. At least will be now moving forward after the little hiatus. And yeah, thanks for watching.